Hi, this is SOW Video, and I'm Theodore Ross, Editor-in-Chief of the Food and Environment Reporting Network, or FERN. I'm here at an undisclosed location in Brooklyn that is either the FERN offices or a remaindered set from the Jodie Foster classic, The Panic Room. You decide which it is. My guest today is Dan Charles. He's a former correspondent for NPR and the reporter on the second episode of Buzzkill, FERN's podcast series on the pollinator crisis. Hi, Dan. Welcome to
Hi,
SOW.
Ted. Nice to be here.
So your episode is a mystery story, The Case of the Dying Bees. It's about a bee researcher in Nebraska named Judy Woo Smart, whose colony of bees kept dying. And when she started looking for an answer for why, she discovered an ethanol plant down the road that was using massive amounts of corn seed that had been coated with a particular class of insecticides, neonicotinoids. And I get a prize every time I say that the right way, which it turned out was leaking into the environment. So tell me, Dan, other than a mystery and solving it, why this story?
So I heard about this from a friend of mine some years back. I got an email from him. He had friends in family, actually, in eastern Nebraska. And he said there was this weird and terrible thing that had happened. There'd been this leak from this shut down ethanol plant. And he said it was from corn seed that this plant had been using to produce ethanol. And I thought to myself, that is weird. Why would anybody use corn seed, which is coated with pesticides, to make ethanol out of? And so I dug into this, and the thing that attracted me to it was, here is this local, very local story about a disaster in this ethanol plant. But I felt like it opened a window into something much bigger. Which I'd also been covering as a reporter, but hadn't really sort of been getting the attention that I thought it deserved, which was the widespread use, almost universal use of these pesticides, which you mentioned, these neonicotinoids, on practically all seed corn across the country, biggest crop in America, for reasons that a lot of scientists say is dubious, not really needed.
And in your reporting, Dan, what would you say was the biggest obstacle you faced?
It's an obstacle that I think a reporter often runs into, and that is bringing the small story together with the big story, right? You have this kind of small thing involving these very specific people. Judy Woo Smart, the scientist who's trying to figure out why her bees are getting killed. Paula Dias, who's trying to figure out why her dogs were getting sick. You have this one specific plant with this crazy cast of characters that are, carrying on this sort of dubious business enterprise. And that's fun, and it's a human story, and it's really interesting, but connecting that to the much broader, diffuse story of millions of acres of corn with this pesticide, which is present in very small quantities in lots of places, with people trying to figure out what is the impact of that across the entire landscape. Bringing those two together in a way that felt coherent and that felt like a real story, I think that was the hardest part for me.
Well, I think you've kind of already answered this question, but what would you say is the takeaway from this story?
A couple of takeaways. One is, there are things happening in agriculture kind of below the radar that are really worth paying attention to. And this is one case of it. In one single place, it might not feel like it matters a lot, but it happens on such a scale across such large areas of the landscape that you really ought to pay attention. And the second thing is a very specific thing about these neonicotinoids. They are used as kind of an insurance policy by farmers. Can't hurt, doesn't cost me that much, so just do it, right? What's the harm? And I think that this particular practice deserves a lot more attention, a lot more sort of critical attention. And I think it is starting to get that when you do it everywhere, it can have significant impacts on ecosystems. First of all, on pollinators, and it has kind of follow-on effects down the line on food webs, and it connects our food production system to the environment in general.
I agree. Well, I really hope that all of you out there outside of the panic room that I'm in will listen to Dan's episode of Buzzkill, and I really hope you'll listen to the whole series. We're dropping new episodes each week. You can find them on Reap or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to learn more about FERN's dispatches from the front lines of food, farming, and the environment, or if you want to support our work, go to www.thefern.org. Thanks very much.